All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Just sort of. Let me see. This one is. Well, this is the one that's probably not working. I wonder if I should switch these.
No, something's working here every time I hit it.
I know. It's going to come out of this one now.
Testing, testing, testing.
Yeah.
Testing, testing, testing.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to switch these so we get the one closest to you. Okay. Just
But what I can't figure out though is if we just on one voice here, what would you do for a stereo signal anyway?
Well, it should come through because you got two mics.
Well, mono through both sides. Well, that'll happen anyway, won't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you'd need the double information to get stereo anyway. Okay.
Okay. I read that you studied with Nadia Boulanger
Yes, I did.
in France.
Yeah. She was.
What was she like?
She was more than a teacher. She was like she's like a mother, you know, because she really believed that what you were as a person, that's all you could ever write musically, and which is true. And so she was always curious about what did the dentist say about your teeth, you know, and who's your girlfriend now, and all that stuff, you know. And at the time, Michel Legrand was studying with her too, you know. She's a beautiful lady. I used to take her peaches from the American PX over there when I go out to Fontainebleau. She used to teach in the summertime, you know, at the old palace at Fontainebleau. And we'd stay, she'd schedule my lessons at 6 o'clock so we could stay in the night and talk and everything else. It was fantastic because it was too late for her to totally indoctrinate me with the classical side because I came in as a jazz musician and blues musician, you know, so I was already been infected, you know. And so the classical thing was just an extension, but I used to see her, the way she treated the classical musicians, she was very, very tough, you know. I mean, because she had them in a very rigid line, and she was a very strong woman.
But you studied classical composition with her?
Right. That's her thing.
See, I studied harpsichord. I'm a pianist, but I
Oh,
studied
really?
harpsichord for a while when I was in college. And my teacher had studied with Nadia Boulanger.
Oh, really? Wanda Landowski?
No, she was long gone already, Wanda. But he studied in France. He was also a composer, but he was also a harpsichordist.
She's a woman you
very
never
famous.
never forget as long as you live, you know. And her reputation is well founded too. She's an incredible woman because her thing was just not about dealing with technique. It was dealing with just your philosophy about life and music. You know, I mean, that's what she hit me the hardest with, and she straightened out a lot of confusion that I had, you know, about dealing with word I hate to use, legitimate music. And I think all music is legitimate, you know. But she puts it on a basis of where it's like a life force, you know. And I love that. It stayed with me it was always with me.
And it helped you in terms of any kind of music that you wrote, the classical.
Yes, it helped to just understand what really the essence of it all was about, you know. She used to talk about the grand lean, you know, the grand line, you know, the big line in music, you know, which is a melodic line, and about dealing with really seriously trying to write with the basis of your roots, but to be familiar with everything that's ever been done with music, because there's only 12 notes, and the same notes that Paul McCartney has to deal with, you know, the same notes that Bach had. I mean, there's no more notes, you know, there's just 12 notes. And she said if you get thoroughly familiar with what most people have done with those same 12 notes, you know, it won't hurt. Until I get a 13th note, it'll be okay, you know, it'll be all right.
Is she still active?
No, she died last year.
Oh, did she? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was about 92 years old. In fact, someone sent me a video cassette that they filmed in her apartment at Rue Ballou, you know, and she was still going strong. Very strong lady.
Yeah.
I used to go up there some days and see Stravinsky sitting with her, you know. Great lady, yeah.
Well, anyway, so I was just curious about that because I knew her.
Yeah, very special.
Yeah. So you have worked with, produced, arranged, written for, played on more artists than I have ever heard of in my life. I really get around.
I know, it's just, sometimes I can't even remember all the names, you know. Well, I can't remember all the names, but it's the experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in life, you know. The whole 360-degree spectrum of music. You know, I feel it's one of the most fortunate things that's ever happened to me.
Did you know?
From childhood to have been involved in that many different artists and different kinds of music all over the world.
I was just going to ask you, did you know when you were a child that you were that talented?
No, I just know that there was nothing in the world more important. Nothing. Basketball, none of that junk, you know. Sports, the only thing that I cared about was music. Any kind. And I was also glad that in Seattle, somehow, I got exposed to all kinds of music, you know, at the same time. And so I never got locked into one thing. Like, you know, I was really into bebop, you know, modern jazz. And we played with blues bands. We had to play schottisches at the clubs. We had to play classical music in the concert orchestras and everything. And so it was always, at the very beginning, it was the kind of thing of just pick the best from each menu, you know, the best dish from each menu. And it's been like that all the time. You know, I've never had to limit myself to music by category. And I love that. And it may be eclectic to some people. To me, I love it because it keeps everything fresh and brand new all the time.
I was going to ask you about that. How can you stay fresh and brand
All
new
the
when you
time.
produce so many
All
people?
the time, and it just gets better. Change, you know. I think the diversification does it.
You mean switching from one artist
Yes,
to another?
and drastically, you know, because the difference between like did Michael Jackson, and then Rufus and Shaka, then straight into the Brothers Johnson to George Benson, and from George Benson to the Brothers Johnson is like you know, 300 degrees apart, you know, but it feels good, and it's just in time. You know, it's like you eat a big incredible roast beef over potatoes and everything, you know, and then that time you want to hit some lemon sherbet, you know, so, peach cobbler, you know.
So what do you conceive of yourself as primarily? Producer?
Pardon?
Do you think of yourself primarily as a...
Everything involved in those 12 notes, you know, and it's, I've worked with almost every singer in America. I mean, you know, a popular singer, a male and female, you know, black and white, and worked with Aznavours and the Jacques Brels, and lived in France 5 years and worked with all the European singers, all the bands, you know, Tommy Dorsey, Dizzy, Basie, Duke, you know, and it's just been the full range, and it's I've written scores about 40 films and TV shows, so that it's just music, period. You know, I don't know how to put a little title on it, because the word producer doesn't mean anything to me. You know, it means you're in the studio, and you have got to come out of that studio with a total concept and 40 minutes of music that makes you feel good. You know, and makes other people feel good. So whatever you have to do, if it's showing a piano player a part, you know, or changing a drum beat, or a melody, or vocal harmony, or a mix, you know, or whatever, you know, attitude towards the microphone. It just never stops. There's 1,000 little details. So I don't know what any of those things mean. I just know that it enables you to draw on all the experience you've had over those 30 years, you know. The first 30 are the hard ones. And you know, you can pull on things that may have happened 20 years ago. You can draw on that experience, and you never know what's going to happen next, you know, because it's personalities too.
Let's talk about personalities and Michael Jackson.
Great.
Okay.
That's a nice personality.
How did you and Michael decide to get together?
Well, we were doing the Wiz, the motion picture version of the Wiz, and at that time we were very preoccupied with just the mechanics of getting that film that large, you know, off the ground. And during our spare moments, you know, we got to know each other a little bit and got closer and got to know each other's people. And Michael said, would you like to produce my next album? And at that time I was thinking only about the pictures. So as time went on, you know, he talked more about it, and I said, well, maybe we ought to try it, you know, and then we did. And it's ironic too, because I think sometimes about writing for Count Basie, who's 75 years old, and then doing an album with Michael, who's 21. You know, that's a long ways away. But Michael's got at 21 years old has 15 or 16 years experience, and is probably one of the most professional people I've ever worked with, because he's disciplined. He has an innate talent for we won't even talk about dancing and just singing per se, but his awareness for the nuances of good music is very acute, you know, and ears and awareness. He's got an old man's sense of awareness, really. You know, I mean, it's way beyond the experience that he's already had. It's just like it's like that, it's like a gift. You know, he just got touched on the shoulder, and he develops it all the time. And I think if everything goes the way it's going now, Michael could be the star of the '80s. You know, because he's got more equipment, I think, than anybody I can think of. At that age, too, at 21, to have all that together, it's really beautiful.
I saw the American Music Awards, Dick Clark's American Music Awards recently, and Michael walked off with like every award.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really astounding.
He deserves it. He's hot.
Did you have any idea when you went into this? This was Michael's first solo album, right?
For CBS, he'd done about 6 or 7 solo albums on Motown. Do you remember Ben and all those things? In the picture? Yeah, he had done about 6 on Motown, but this was the first one. The Jacksons had done, I think, 2 or 3 albums on CBS with a new contract, and this was Michael's first solo album. And when just getting to see him during The Wiz, I could tell that there were, watching him in his acting roles, I could had a feeling that there were parts of him that hadn't been tapped before on record. And that was interesting because, you know, film is very revealing, and an actor in an acting capacity, you reveal a lot about yourself. And then I could see sides, you know, of parts of the personality that hadn't been on records before. And that's when I started to really get interested in taking up the offer, you know, because he's 21 now, and that's not the same little 12-year-old that used to sing ABC. And I don't know, it was just magic from the beginning. And it would not be true really to say that we did not aim at what's happening now. You know, to say that just, wow, we just really fell into something, you know, is not the truth, because we aimed at it and wanted it very bad, you know, to just be the bomb, you know, and just make the greatest album you could stand, you know. And we got fortunate enough to get most of that feeling on the record, you know.
So you had the feeling right from the beginning that it would be a big hit?
Oh yeah, Michael too. I mean, it's like Moms Mabley said, we didn't come here to make no flops. You know, you don't go in the studio to just make something that's not going to work.
What about choosing songs? Were you very influential in choosing songs, or did Michael say, I'd like to do these? And
Michael wrote 3 songs, and outside of I Can't Help It, which is Stevie's song, I found the rest of the songs. And I asked Rod Temperton to write 3 songs for the album, because I was surprised that nobody had ever talked to Rod Temperton about, you know, I've been a big fan of his a long time, since I first heard the Heatwave albums. I was just shocked that these past 3 years that nobody had ever asked Rod to write for an outside group, because, I mean, I could hear all of the talent, you know, that he had, you know, through the Heatwave records. And so I called him in New York during the Heatwave album, and I had met him before once, and said, with no hesitation, just, Rod, write a song for Michael Jackson and a couple other things too, and in this kind of a vein, you know, I'm aiming at some songs in this kind of vein. It sort of gave him some guidelines, and he wrote Off the Wall, which is one of my favorite in the album, and Rock With You and Burn This Disco Out. And the other songs, Get On the Floor, Louis Johnson had written part of, and then Michael finished that up. Girlfriend we picked, and It's the Falling in Love, my wife found in an album. Yeah, but the idea was to just get 10 songs that we just absolutely love, you know, not 2 or 3, and then fill the album up with just some fair things, you know. It was to go for broke on everything.
did you put Michael in a category as an artist, or did you just want to be, I mean, he's now #1 selling artist, you know, on pop charts. Did you conceive of him as a disco artist, as a pop, as an R&B?
I don't do that. No, I don't like that, because I don't like anybody to do it to me. It's the same feeling, Sally. I believe in 360 degrees all the time. You know, just live it all out. You know, I mean, just every feeling that you know, that everybody has a full range of emotions. You know, it's just a question to find a vehicle to tap the emotions. You know, so that she got a real broad, because the contrast between "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough" and "She's Out of My Life" is really miles apart. But Michael, I just could feel inside that he had the capacity to deal with that kind of emotion before, because I think he's mature enough now to deal with that. And it was a song that a friend of mine wrote after his wife left him, and it's a very painful song. And it was interesting because we made about 5 takes that day, and every take, uh, the last 8 bars, Michael broke down and cried. We left it on the record. We couldn't get a take without it, and it fascinated me because I couldn't. I said, now Michael hasn't been married 3 or 4 times, you know, so I know he can't. He's not relating to a past experience like that, because it was a very mature emotion in the song, but he related to it because he's so sensitive and aware, and he related to it every take. And then we tried it again 3 weeks later, and the same thing happened. It pressed the same button in him, and I mean, literally, the tears just fell out of his eyes, and he could just barely get his voice together to sing the last word in there. So we just left it in the record, and that takes it from the happiness of working day and night and rock with you and all those things. It took it to the other side of the emotional range.
What about Michael in terms of being a co-producer? How did you and he work together?
Michael, he knows exactly what he wanted to do with the. He was a co-producer on the 3 songs, with Working Day and Night, and Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, and Get on the Floor. Was it Get on the Floor? Anyway, he had some rhythmic concepts, you know, like the percussion on "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough," and he had his ideas, very precise ideas of what he wanted to do with the bass lines on his own songs, and so, you know, we both agreed that he should be co-producer on those songs that he, you know, participated in. He's got a lot of talent too. He's he's gonna be a monster.
We recently did an interview with George Martin.
That's a beautiful man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's also been around too.
Yes, he has.
And he spoke about the role of the producer, which I found really fascinating. He said that when he started at EMI, that the producer was like chief cook and bottle washer. I mean, just did everything, anything, but received very little recognition. And that gradually the roles began to change, and he said the producer not only began to become recognized, but began to become the star, even more than the so-called star. And then everybody, it wasn't enough that the person was the artist, you know, and perform on the record. They had to be the producer, because that was like the ultimate acclaim.
Right, right. Everybody wants it very much, you know, and they really do. I mean, it's become a very. I'm happy about that too, because when I first started in the record business, I used to produce records, but nobody knew what to call you. You were the man that was in between the engineer and the record company owner, but you in many ways were responsible for whatever happened on the record. But you could be an arranger, conductor, you know, or whatever. And we didn't even know what the title was. You know, in fact, even when I did Leslie Gore's first hits, you know, we didn't think about exactly what producer meant. You know, we just knew that you were responsible for that record sounding the way it sounded. And now it's become, you know, a very, you know, acknowledged place to be, though. And it's fun because you don't have to answer to anybody. I like that independence too.
But a lot of artists produce themselves. Do you think they're all equally capable of doing that?
All artists?
Well, all the artists that do produce
themselves. Well, I think the proof of the pudding is what are the total results? You know, does the product turn out good? You know, and does it communicate to the audience? You know, there's some people that can do that. That can have to have that third sense to be able to, or the sixth sense, you know, to be able to stand back after they finish the thing. I find what happens in most cases that most artists are too involved to be objective about what's coming out of the other side of the microphone. Because if you're going to write the song and sing it, you know, and you're on the microphone, you can't tell. It's very hard to step back and get outside of that, and you know, you're just subjective all the time. And a few artists have made it come off, but I don't know how consistently they can do it. It's very difficult. Because I still think the thing that works best is when you've got a great engineer, you've got a great producer, and you've got a great artist and a great song, you know. And I still have a perspective about making records just like, because I've been so as much involved in film, because I'm a film junkie, as with records, and I still view the casting, that's the artist, and the script is the same thing as the song. And without a script or a cast, there's no shooting to be done. And the shooting is the recording itself and capturing it on 24 track or whatever. And editing is mixing down. It's the same. You know, the correlation is very much the same as casting is very important. The casting of musicians and the type of instruments that you put with a song. I think that all of those things are what, you know, the nuances that make the difference. I mean, that's what when I hear records, those are the things that are striking. You know, what makes you really remember a record? You've had records that just invade your mind sometimes, haven't you? That you can't cut loose. They just invade your mind and your soul, and that's the kind of records you try to make. You know, that just have that much personality and commitment and sincerity in it. You know.
So did you think you had all those things with Michael?
Mm-hmm. That's what we went after. And it was, look, it's a silly statement really, because I guess everybody goes after that. You have to have a lot of things that have to coincide with your preparation, your experience, your luck, the talent involved in the songs and everything else. You have to have all of that lightning hit at the same time to get an album to come off like that, because I guess everybody really wants to get that to happen. But it's a long trip from the first time that Michael and I sit down out in that front room and say, okay, let's go, until the time that record is out. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to take place, you know, and adjustments and recut rhythm tracks and change keys and all of these things. Redo a guitar part, redo a mix maybe 10 times, you know. But that's what it's all about. Nobody cares about all that. They're just saying it moves me or it doesn't. And we're in a funny type of profession, because we're in a profession where the total results of our work is consumed before it's purchased.
You mean by the radio?
Yes. Everything that you ever can do with it, all you can do is listen to it, and we give all of that away on the radio free before people decide I like that enough to want to own it at home. That's a tough deal, you know. Very tough. They give it away first. I mean, movies don't do that. Now, you can say your friend can tell you the movie's not very good. You say, my friend told me it's not good. We'll go find out, you know. Come out and she said she was right. It's a piece of junk, right? But you had to pay to find out, you know. In the record business, you give it all away free at first. And so you're dealing on a very, I think, on a very honest, emotional level, because, you know, you're standing there with your whole soul hanging out saying, here I am, love me, you know?
Well, apparently they did. I mean, certainly with Michael, you know. But it's an interesting analogy you made, because I kept thinking of, well, gee, we have trailers in movie theaters or something, and you know, a hit song is really, I mean.
The single record is like the 30 or 60-second spot, almost a 3-minute spot, you know.
Sure. I mean, that's supposed to be the reason why you go out and spend the whatever it is now, $8.98. I don't know.
Well, I mean, but even past that, even with the single itself in its entirety, you hear that, the totality of that on the radio. Just the single record, for kids that want to buy the single record. They already hear it on the radio. I know a lot of kids